Page 175, Chapter 3 practice test. Question 1. Which of the following are statements? What does page 107 say? A statement is true or false, but not both. So, green apples taste good? True or false? Who says green apples taste good? Nobody. Well, okay, thank you. I have a friend who likes green apples. Who say green apples don't taste good? So if it can't be both, then is it a statement? Yes or no? No, it's not a statement. B, 1991 was a leap year. You go, I don't know about leap years. Well, could you Google it? And just say, was 1991 a leap year? And what will Google tell you?
True or false?
They'll say yes or no. So it's either true or false. So that makes B a statement. C, no fish can live without water. Can some fish live without water? I think there's some kind of fish that can flop out of the water when the pond's getting low and go to another pond. But if he doesn't find another pond, what does he do?
Die.
Well, according to my evolutionary friends, he develops lungs and starts breathing and turns into a cat or something. I don't know. He dies. That's right. He dies. So, no fish can live without water. That's true. Some birds cannot fly. True or false?
True.
True. So that's a statement. If it rains today, my lawn will get wet. Is that a statement?
Yeah.
Yes, and it's true. Can anyone answer this question? And you're thinking, no, yes. Say, I have to hear the question. Well, there you go. So it's not a statement. Number 2, write each statement in symbolic form. Number A, if the number of a year is divisible by 4. So can you read what I have written here? If the number of a year is divisible by 4, I put it in those small little letters on purpose because I take a whole phrase in English and boil it down to just a little string of letters. And what's that? What's the letter they give for that string of letters? D. If D, then what's the next part of it? The year is a presidential election year. The year is a presidential election year. But they tell me to call that P. You follow what's going on? And they want me to do it, I'm supposed to write it in symbolic language. So how do I write it? What's the answer to 2A? If D, then P. D, arrow P. You got that? B, I love Bill, but Bill does not love me. Okay, I love Bill. They're already telling us to call that B, but Bill does not love me, and they're telling me to call that not M. So I have B, but not M. How do I write that? How do you write but in symbolic language? You only have 2 symbols, and or. Which one do you use for but? And. So you write B and not M, and that's the symbolic form. Okay? C. A candidate is elected president of the United States, so I wrote all that down there, just putting down the letters. But see, it tells me to call that E. If and only if, does that sound like a phrase from our class in logic? If and only if what? he or she receives a majority of the electoral votes, and I wrote those out and then said, and that's M. So what's the symbol for if and only if? Do you have that in your notes? You're going to bring those notes with you to class? It's an arrow pointing both directions, right? You go, how do you know that? You have it in your notes. I have it in my notes right here on my 3x5 card, just in case my mind goes blank. What do they call that? A senior moment. I've got all my rules for logic right here on this little card. You probably want to have a bigger card than that because you want to be able to write out some explanations that help you make sense out of things. But I can put all my rules on this little card and then just have it laying here. If my mind goes blank, I can turn over and look at it. So you need to have those rules written down somewhere because they're not just going to come into your head because you prayed that God would help you do well on the test. You've got to study for this stuff. So the symbolic form would be the arrow both directions, and if E, then M. If E, or E, if and only if M. All right, let's go to D. Janet can make sense out of symbolic language. There it is. Janet can make sense out of symbolic language and call that S. Or, what's it say? Fail this course. Ooh, that's pretty painful. Or fail this course and they call that F. So how would you put that in symbolic language? S or F. And then E, the last one. Janet cannot make sense out of symbolic logic. Janet cannot make sense out of symbolic logic, and that's just, say, call that not S. So in symbolic language, it's not S. Problem number 3. What's G?
He's a gentleman.
He's a gentleman. What's S?
He's a scholar.
He's a scholar. So now they give me this statement here. And what does this statement say? Negate the parentheses of G and S. Isn't that what it says? So how would you say G and S in words? Isn't that what they want us to do here? Write the following in words. How would you say G and S in words?
He's a gentleman and a scholar.
He's a gentleman and he's a scholar. He's a gentleman and a scholar. And how would you negate that whole thing? Remember that magic phrase? It is not the case that he's a gentleman and a scholar. You follow that? Now, over here, see that not parentheses G and S? Not parentheses G and S is equivalent to not G or not S. Agreed? So another way you could put that in words is to say he is not a gentleman or he is not a scholar. You follow that? And I don't know which one they'll have on the test, but on your practice test, I think when you look at the answers, it has the first one down there. It's not the case that he's a gentleman and he's a scholar. But you want to keep those notes handy that not parentheses G and S is equivalent to not G or not S. Okay. Are we ready for number 3B? Not G and S. So what's not G? He's not a gentleman and he is a scholar. He's not a gentleman, and he is a scholar. So what would you probably say in everyday English if you were talking about this guy to somebody else?
He's not a gentleman, but
He's a scholar. Yeah. So that's where you, but you say this is pure math. But if on the test, one of the choices was he's not a gentleman, but he is a scholar. If that was one of the choices, that would be the correct choice to make. Number 4, write the negation. Now I'm going to negate something. And what am I negating for 4A? I will go to the beach or to the movies. I will go to the beach or to the movies. Now, see, since I'm going to negate this stuff, I'm just going to pick a letter for this. So I'm just picking, they don't give letters. See, if they don't give letters, then it's my choice. So I'm going beach or movies. You follow what I'm doing? Because I'm trying to walk my way through the problem. So now, how would I write beach or movies in symbolic language? B or M. And then what am I supposed to do with that? I'm supposed to negate it. So what's the negation of B or M? Not B and not M. Agreed? You have that in your notes about negations? If you don't, put that on a sheet of paper. And if you can put everything on one sheet of paper so you have it at a glance, so you can look it over. If you have to turn a bunch of pages to find something, you're not sure which page to turn to, just kind of try to summarize these rules and put them on a page so you've got them at a glance to look at. So you say, oh, the negation of B or M is not B and not M. So now how do I say not B and not M in words? Not B would be what? I will not go to the beach. And not M would be I will not go to the movies. You follow the thinking? I will not go to the beach, and I will not go to the movies. Did they want it in words or in symbolic language? I bet they want it in words because they didn't tell me what symbols to use. If they don't tell me what symbols to use, then so on the test, what's going to happen is, now on the test, they're not going to do all this stuff that I did in symbolic form here. You're going to have to do that on your own to figure out what the correct answer is. Because on the test, they'll just say, write the negation of the following statement, or actually what it'll say is, the negation of the following statement is, and then they'll have A, B, C, and D, and E. And you have to look at those 5 choices and decide which one's the negation. And I'm just telling you, if you don't walk through this symbolic process, you'll probably pick the wrong one. So I just go through the symbolic process, then after I get through doing my symbolic stuff, then I come back to what I gave my letters to and write that out. So then I look and say, okay, which one of the choices matches I will not go to the beach and I will not go to the movies? You follow what you have to do? The practice test is kind of going to tell you what to do to work it out. The exam is just going to make a statement and then say which one of the following is the negation of this statement, and you have to decide, and the way you decide is walk through this symbolic process and then come back to the statements. Okay, let's do number 4B. I will stay in my room and do my homework. I'll stay in my room and do my homework. So what am I calling this? S and D. See that? I called it S and D, and I'm supposed to negate that. So what's the negation of S and D? You have that in your notes? Not S or not D. You have that in your notes, don't you? Okay, put that down and bring it with you. So, how would I say not S or not D in words? I will not, what was S? I will not stay in my room, or I will not do my homework. Boy, someone's got an attitude. A little bit too much negativity there. C, Pluto is not a planet. And I'm going to negate that. Well, how would you negate Pluto is not a planet? How would you negate not P? P, agreed? So, what would P be? If I call Pluto is not a planet, if I call that whole thing P, then Pluto is a planet. Number 5. Write the negation of the following statements. Better get your notes out on this one. How do you negate all with the word some? So all cats are felines. To negate that, you would say some cats are not felines. Do you follow that? Some cats are not felines. How do you negate 5B? Some what? Dogs are well trained. Some dogs are well trained. How do you negate some?
No.
See? Now can you see? If you negate all with some, what's somebody going to think? Then you must negate some with all? No. You negate some with no. Dog is well trained. Okay? How do you negate no for 5C? No dog is afraid of a mouse. You negate no with what? Some dogs are afraid of a mouse. Okay? You got that down? Put that in your notes for the test. Number 6. Write the negation of each of the following statements. How do you negate if then? You don't remember? Do you have that in your notes somewhere? If then, the negation of if then is P and not Q. The negation of if P then Q is P and not Q. So, number 6A, if Joey does not study, if he does not study, if Joey does not study, whoops, what happened? If Joey does not study, if he does not study, then he will not pass, or then he will fail. If he does not study, then he will fail. So that would be the negation would be, how do I negate he does not study? Oh, I don't negate it. I mean, I just leave it the same. It's P. So I put down P. So Joey does not study, following this pattern, and he does not fail the test. because it said he will fail the test, and here you put he does not fail the test. You go, well, that's just not true. I know. The negation of if then. If then is true, then the negation would be false. 6b. If Sally studies hard, if Sally studies hard, then, what's it say? She will make an A on the exam. So what's the negation? Sally studies hard, that's P, and she does not. What did it say? She will make an A on the course. She does not make an A on the course. You follow that? Okay, number 7. Which truth table matches the following statement? Statements. It has more than one. Oh, it's got A, B, C, D, and E in the chart there. It's got a bunch of truth tables in the chart. So I take P and Q, just like it's given there on the left, and I have true, 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 false, false, true, false, false. Got the standard drill down? Then I have the statements, not P, if P then Q, P and Q, P or Q, and P if and only if Q. Now, do you know how, if P is true, true, false, false, what's not P? False, false, true, true. Everybody follow that? What's the truth value for if P then Q? If true then true, that's true. If true then false, that's false. If false then true, that's true. If false then false, that's true. You've got the truth value down someplace on your piece of paper for if then. And what's the truth value for and? True, false, false, false. And's only true when they're both true. What's the truth value for or? True, 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 false. It's true if both are true. It's true if either one is true. What's the truth value for if and only if? Now, you might not have that in your notes because you didn't use it that much, but watch this. If I want to make the truth value for if and only if, okay, P if Q and Q if P, so I go both directions. True, true, and then go the other. I go true, true, go in this direction. Then I go true, true, go in that direction. So, is that true both directions? True and true, true and true? It's true. True and false and true? Nope, true and false is false. False and true and false? Nope, that's false. False and false and false, that's true. You go, what? Yeah, remember, if the premise is false, no matter what the conclusion is, then the if then is true. Or you can just put in your notes, the truth value for if and only if is true, false, false, true. So now, we're not done with this thing because now we have to look at the columns. Which one of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, match column A? True, false, false, true. Is that this one? So that's A, true, false, false, true. B is true, false, false, false. Which one matches that? And, see what I'm doing? I do the work, Then I look at the chart to see which one matches. And then C is false, false, true, true. Where's that one? That's here. And D is true, false, false, true. Where's that one? Oh, I read it wrong. You got to read them right or you'll get messed up. True, false, true, true. That's this one. That's D. And true, 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 false. That's E. Everybody see how that works? And the test won't tell you to build all these charts. You just have to build these truth value charts to be able to answer the questions. You say, you can't just look at those columns and go, oh, I can tell which column goes with which one. No, you have to do all this work. Number 8. Construct a truth table. Now, see, it will not tell you on the test to construct a truth table. You have to just know to do that on your own. But for this one, construct a truth table for P or Q and not P or not Q. So what do? See, what will happen is, here's what will happen. On the test, it won't say construct the truth value. It will say which of the following, on the test, which of the following, A, B, C, or D, is the truth value for P or Q, parentheses, and not P or not Q. So I come over here and I put my P and Q stuff. Then I say, okay, or that's true, 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 false. You got me? So I've got this one done. I've got this side done. Now I have to do this side over here. If P is true, true, false, false, then what's not P? False, false, true, true. Everybody follow that? And if Q is true, false, true, false, then what's not Q? False, true, false, true. Then what's and? What's or? False or false would be false. False or true would be true. True or false would be true, and true or true would be true. Now I've got this side done. Now I compare these two columns to answer. I compare these two columns to answer this question right here. True and false is what?
False.
False. True and false is what?
True and true.
Oh, sorry, I looked at the wrong thing. True and true is true. True and true is true, and false and true is false. So which choice matches false, true, true, false? Ah, there it is. C. You follow what you have to do? They're going to give you this statement and then say which one of these is the truth value for that statement. You have to construct a truth value chart to figure it out, but it's not going to tell you on the test to construct a truth value chart. Number 9. Under which condition is the following statement true? Sally is naturally beautiful. Yeah, that's 9 and 10 are just like 8, so I'll just skip on over those and go to 11. Under which condition is the following statement true? Sally is naturally beautiful, or she knows how to use makeup. So what I have here for number 11 is Sally is naturally beautiful, or she knows how to use makeup. When is that statement true? When will that statement be true? When, what would that be? When is that statement going to be true? When Sally is naturally beautiful, comma, when Sally knows how to use makeup, comma, or both. Do you follow that? If it would have said, when is Sally is naturally beautiful and she knows how to use makeup, when would that be true? When is, see, or is true when both are true or either one is true. And is true only when both are true. So what would make Sally is naturally beautiful and, change to what, blue here? If it said and, no, thought I had blue. If it said and, then what would be the condition that would make that true? When Sally is naturally beautiful and when she knows how to use makeup. Do you follow that? That's the only time and is true, when both are true. Okay, number 12. Is this statement true or false? If 2 plus 2 is 5, then 2 times 3 is 6. So what we have here is a false if and a true then. So what does that make the if-then statement?
True.
True. Everybody see that? What if it would have said this? What if I would have said, if 2 plus 2 is 5, then 2 times 4 is 6. This is false, and this is false. What does that make the if-then statement?
True. True.
Thank you. Put that in your notes. That's a true statement, because I haven't told a lie. I've just made 2 false statements. Yes?
It says 2 times 3 in the book.
I know. That's why in the book, oh, it says 2 times 2?
2
Oh, I
times
copied
3.
down, I put down 2 times 3.
Yeah.
So here, well, what in the world? Why did I copy it down like that? I don't know. Oh, it says 2 plus 2 is 5. And then what? 2 times 3 is 6. And I said, that's problem A. I said, just to help you keep it straight in your mind, let's make up a problem B.
Oh.
I just made up another problem. So that you see both are false. If they're both true, you're going to naturally say, well, yeah, they're both true, that makes it true. But yeah, and if the first one's true and the second one's false, then that one's false. So you have to keep in mind what the truth value is for if then. Okay. Number 13, skip it. Number 14. Write the following statement. If you make a score of 62 once, you will make it again. If you make a score of 62 once, and I called that P, I don't know why. Seems like it. Oh, I know why I called it P, because I'm using if P then Q. So I called that P, then you will make it again, and I'm calling that Q just because of my if P and then Q stuff. What's the converse of if P then Q? Do you have that in your notes? What is it?
If Q then P.
If Q then P. So how would I say if Q then P? If, what's Q? You make it again, then you made a golf score of 62. I know it doesn't make any sense, but that's what we're doing here. is writing the converse of a statement. What's the inverse? You know what the inverse is? You have that in your notes? If not P, then not Q. So, write that in words. Not P would be if you do not make a score, here's if you do not make a score of 62, then you don't make it again. And the contrapositive is if not Q, then not P. So it switches it around. If you don't make it again, then you didn't make a score of 62. I don't care if it doesn't make sense. I'm just taking the words they give me and writing the converse, the inverse. Now on the test, here's what it'll say. It'll make a statement, and then it'll have 4 other statements, 4 or 5 statements. And it'll say which one is the converse, which one is the inverse, and which one is the contrapositive. So you have to write these out to know which one is which. Number 15. Let P be you get overtime pay, and M, so they've already told me. Here's P, here's M. P is you get overtime pay, and M is you work more than 40 hours per week. Symbolize the following. If, then. So that means I'm going to put the if-then arrow. If you work more than 40 hours a week, that's M. So if M, then P. You see what's going on? You're symbolizing, so there's the answer to that question. For B, you get overtime pay, that's P, only if you work more than 40 hours a week, that's M. And how do you put only if in if P then Q? You put the first one first, if P, then M. If you get overtime pay, then you work more than 40 hours a week. C, you get overtime pay if and only if. There's the arrow going both directions. You make more than 40 hours a week. So you say, well, you get overtime pay as P, so I just go if P, P, if and only if M. And if the answer said M, whoops, come on. If the answer said M, if and only if P, are these two equivalent? Yes, they are. Number 16. Let B be you get a bank loan, and C be you have good credit. So here's B, you get a bank loan. Let's go back to our blue. Here's B, you get a bank loan, and C, you have good credit. And they want me to symbolize the following statements. For you to get a bank loan, it is necessary that you have good credit. Okay, do you have your little chart there for necessary and sufficient? If P then Q is the same as saying Q is necessary for P. So it, having good credit, is necessary for getting a bank loan. So having good credit, C, is necessary for getting a bank loan, B. So if B, then C. You follow that? Because is necessary flips them when you put the arrow in there. So you'll have to have that stuff that I have written in red, you'll have to have that in your notes to be looking at it while you're working the problem. And then for B, having good credit, C, is sufficient. What's the formula for sufficient? Somewhere here I have it in my notes. There it is. P is sufficient for Q is equivalent to if P then Q. So the order stays the same. So I simply keep the same order and say, here's my answer right here. If C, then B. Number C, a necessary and sufficient condition. That's going to be both ways. Everybody see that? So I just pick one and put it on the left since it goes both ways. C is necessary and sufficient for B, or B is necessary and sufficient for C. Skip problems 17, 18, 19, and 20. That was from the section we skipped in the book. 21. Use a truth table to check the validity of the argument in problem 19. So problem 19 said, all students study hard. That's premise 1. Let me go back to red. That's the first premise. John is not a student. That's the second premise. And the conclusion is John does not study hard. That's the conclusion. Now, the test won't say, use the truth table to check the validity of this argument. The test will just say, is this argument valid or invalid? And to do that, we have to make a truth table. And to answer the question, so we go S and H. And then we go statement 1, all students study hard is if you're a student, then you study hard. John is not a student, not S. John does not study hard, not H. You follow that? See where I'm getting my values for my chart that I'm going to make? So then I fill in the truth value for each statement. And then how do you check for the validity of an argument? You circle the premises that are true. Now remember, the textbook will show drawing lines through the ones where they're not both true. And I just prefer to circle the ones that are true for the premises and then look at the conclusions to see if they're both true. And if they're not both true, then what does that make this? Invalid. Because one's false and one's true. So it's not a valid conclusion. Okay? And the textbook the test isn't going to tell you to make a truth table. You'll just have to know that I'm going to have to make a truth table to determine if this argument is valid. And then 22 wants you to do the same thing for problem 20. So what did I do for problem 20? No loafers work hard. Sally does not work hard. Sally is a loafer. And I put loafers. If you're a loafer, then you do not work hard. Sally does not work hard. Sally is a loafer. And then I do the truth values for them. And what do I find out? That that one's also invalid because it has a true and a false. Even though it sounds good, it's not valid logic. That's why you have to make the truth table to answer the question. Number 23. Use the truth table to check the validity of the following. If you win the race, then you're a good runner, that's premise 1. You win the race, that's premise 2. Conclusion, you're a good runner. So I come down here and go, if you win the race, then you're a good runner. You won the race, you're a good runner. And I fill in the truth values for each of those and go, here's true, and those are the only ones where both are true. So yes, that's a valid argument. Okay? That's logically valid. Number 24. Supply a valid conclusion using all 3 premises. So I've got if P then Q, if not P then not R, and if S then Q. So what's the contrapositive of if not P then not R? R, if R then P. You follow that? And what's the contrapositive of if S then not Q? If Q then not S. So now watch what I have here. I have if P then Q, and then change to black. Did it change on me? There we go. And then if Q then not S, and then wait a minute. Oh, I forgot to put the first one in here. Maybe come over here and I'll come over and do them like this. Here's P. I have if R, then P. It's easier when you line them up like this. If P, then Q. If Q, then not S. So when you look at this progression here, what can I say as a conclusion?
If R, then not S.
If R, then not S. And that's my conclusion. Sometimes when you're switching these things around, it's better to take a piece of paper and just follow a progression with writing them out. But you see how I get them in the format where I can make my little progression? Is I have to take what they give me and write the contrapositive of it. What's this thing I have written here? Skip 25. And if you want some more practice with logic and sets, Google logic and sets, Cengage, for more practice with logic. Just because this chapter hasn't lasted very long and some of you might want to do more with this just for the fun of it. Yeah. So there's some places on the internet to have some fun with logic. Okay, that's the test. We'll come in here on Monday and zip right through it. Have a nice weekend.